Hi, this is Marcy at Spirit Source from 1033 Maine, and as promised, the next video in our series of tarot for beginners is about the Fool. This is a really interesting card, and I'm going to show you examples of the Fool from a few different decks, but primarily in this series we'll be working with the Weight deck, which can be universal or rider weight, and this is the imagery on that deck, and we'll break that down a little bit and talk about the energy that this card represents in your readings. And today I'm also going to show you examples from the John Holland Psychic Tarot deck, Oracle deck, Housewives Tarot, which is a very fun deck to read, and the Gaian Tarot, which is a very new deck. I really enjoy this deck. So let's take a look at what the Fool represents in a reading. The Fool represents the energy of something so new that it has not yet really quite begun. So if you think of something in the idea stage, that would be where we're at. Maybe a child that hasn't yet been born, something that is starting to set up but has not yet happened. And so with the Fool, what we're talking about is possibilities and potential. And I also want to show you some of the symbols here on this card from the Weight deck. If we think of the earth as representing the material, physical presence of something, we see that the mountains in the background show us, and how close he is to the sun shows us that the Fool is not quite on the material plane yet. So that's where we get the concept that the Fool represents an energy that is still in its potential form, or ideas that are still in the form of possibility. There's a little bit of a reliance on beginner's luck here with the Fool. You can see he's not necessarily quite prepared, and that's what is represented as he's getting ready to step off the cliff. Sometimes this card also represents the need to take a leap of faith, to trust that if you step off the cliff, if you take that risk, you will be cared for. And so, as they say, leap and the net will appear. He has a little companion dog who's kind of trying to maybe warn him that he's about to take a misstep. That dog represents the Fool's own intuition. He has some instincts that can set off alarm bells and help him stay out of danger if he chooses to listen to those warnings. And he's a little bit involved spiritually. He's looking up, so away from the material plane. So sometimes this can be an indication that we need to follow our spiritual instincts, our intuitive response, and take a chance. But this can also represent that something's coming up that we're going to be taken a little bit by surprise. And so if you're doing a reading that's kind of in the realm of trying to tell what's going to happen, what's going to happen here is something that has the possibility of catching us by surprise, and for which we might not quite be prepared, but that we might have seen coming if we had listened to our instincts. So I want to show you these other examples. In the case of the Gaian Tarot, I really like that let me just make sure I get the name correct. Joanna Powell Colbert, or Colbert, I'm not sure, has designed these cards. They're wonderful for reading. She has renamed this card the Seeker because, well, I'm extrapolating, I would say, because that's really what's going on. The Seeker is looking at possibilities. There's a great deal of openness to what may come, and not fearful, not worried, just wide open to the possibilities. And I like that concept of the seeker, because the fool has a certain connotation for us of being maybe stupid, and we've kind of given that word some shading that isn't necessarily what was really intended. In fact, when we think of the court jesters, with which the fool is kind of associated that way, when we think of a court jester and we think of the historical nature of the court jester, they were allowed to get away with quite a lot. They could even say some things that other people might be sentenced to death for. And the reason they were permitted to get away with that is because they were thought to possess what would be known as divine madness, that their silliness, their foolness, their jesterness was inspired by divine understanding. And so they were considered to have a very powerful intuitive gift. And again, it reminds us of the intuitive gift of the little dog. So when the fool comes up, you might be able to get away with some things you couldn't before. I want to show you the Housewives Tarot example of the fool. She's kind of a little scattered. She's not quite prepared. She's starting to set off on a journey, but she might be throwing away some of what she needs because she's not following her instincts. Or her instincts may be that she doesn't need so much. And again, getting rid of all that material supply shows us that she's focused more in a spiritual way. And also that she's off the ground. She's up in the air. And we don't know where she's going to land. But again, just as the weight deck shows us the fool up in the mountains away from the material, physical world, so is she up above the physical world. And so this is also a card of intuitive response. And the John Holland, the Psychic Tarot Oracle deck, I want to show you, his card is labeled New Beginnings. But this beginning has not yet become a physical reality. It's still in the idea potential stage. And the number associated with the Fool is 0. We're going to get into the physical manifestation with the 1 on our next card, the Magician. But I want you to see, again, this person has set out from their spiritual home. They've stepped out of the door. The earth is at their feet. Anything can happen. All potential. It's all potential, and nothing has yet been set. And even though there's a step taken forward, this person is still on the stairs, still on the steps to the spiritual home. And so just beginning to step into physical reality. And then I also want to talk a little bit about when you get the card in a reverse. If you choose to read reversals, there are some different ways you can look at this card. I tend to think of the downside of the card when I see it in reversal. So this card, this Fool, is divinely blessed, protected by the sun, following his instincts, getting ready to take a chance. But when we reverse it, we think maybe this isn't a great time to just go on instinct, and this may not be the best time to take a risk, and this might be a time to hold steady and look at what's going on around you and consider that you don't necessarily have the tools at hand. You're not necessarily prepared for what's coming at you, and this would be a good time to kind of keep it close to home and not branch out yet with new ideas. There might still be some internal work to be done to clarify your ideas before you're ready to launch forward with them. And so when it's reversed, it's an indication that there's a need for caution and time to continue to prepare before you set out on a journey. But when it's upright, this is a time of new journeys, new possibilities, a new way of life, a new way of looking at things. This might even be associated with a baby coming. So there are some more concrete meanings associated with the cards. This could be a new baby. This could be a move. This could be just a complete fresh start that's coming. But when it's reversed, let's stay careful. Let's stay focused on the material and what's actually going on. in the physical world and not so much in the spiritual world. And it's a time to be aware of your circumstances. So that's the Fool. I appreciate you taking the time to watch this video, and I hope that you're able to put this information to good use. Definitely take some time and observe the Fool card and check on it every day and see what you notice when you look at the symbols in the cards. And let's focus on the Fool for now. And like I said, next up we'll be looking at the Magician, and we're going to work our way through the major arcana. So study the Fool. Also take some time to study the Magician and get familiar with that card, and we'll go into the meaning there with our next video. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.